Bitcoin jumped above $26,000, reversing Monday's decline to 3-month lows under $25,000. Joining us now to discuss the crypto markets is Tactive wealth advisor Eddy Gifford. Welcome back, Eddy.
Thank you for having me.
Good to see you. So, we saw a little bit of action in the markets when it came to shorts being liquidated. That's helped bring Bitcoin's price back up above 26. What are your thoughts here? And what are your thoughts on any potential bull market triggers?
Well, we are in a time of year where investors, generally speaking, are a little bit more risk off. August, September are historically just like bad months in general for investors. So we're not seeing any difference this time around. Obviously, we've had a lot of rallies and a lot of risk assets this year. So the question is whether or not this is, investors taking a breather and looking to build positions, or if this is investors unloading because there's something bigger on the horizon. When we're looking specifically at Bitcoin and what's happened over the last couple of days, definitely had a little bit of a short squeeze recently. But if you look at it like more big picture broadly, we are below the 50-day moving average. The 50-day moving average just crossed over the 200-day moving average, which in technical land is called a death cross, which is generally speaking very bearish. And so there's not a lot of optimism around Bitcoin right now. But the way to play it would be to trade it, right? From a standpoint of, in this scenario, what you're probably doing is selling the rallies, buying the dips if they're really large, but you have to have a long-term conviction to Bitcoin right now if you're going to be in. And I think that that's where investors are kind of being tested right now is, okay, how much do I really believe in this?
The old adage, sell Rosh Hashanah, buy Yom Kippur, I think is what we would have in the equities markets back in the day. And Rosh Hashanah is coming up on Friday evening. So I don't know if that necessarily holds in crypto, but it sounds like you think it might.
I think that sorry.
No, go ahead.
I think that, it doesn't matter like who you're dealing with. Investor psychology and investor behavior really kind of always mimics itself. So when you're on edge anyways, and things are starting to look a little bit unclear or more unclear, it's a lot easier just to say, hey, we're up this year. Let's take some money off the table and we'll wait until after September, or we'll wait until we get a little bit more clarity, right? I mean, there's obviously a lot of stuff that we're looking at. If we end up getting a spot ETF approval, I think that'll be good in general. But the lack of liquidity out there and the fact that inflation is kind of creeping its ugly head back into the picture, I think that affects all risk assets. And we saw that in 2022. Let's just hope that we don't have a super cycle in commodities that really crushes not only the stock markets, but the cryptocurrency markets as well.
Eddy, where is that optimism going to come from, do you think? You mentioned this pending ETF approval. There's the Bitcoin halving coming up. What are you watching? When do you think the next bull market is going to be triggered?
Well, I think what you need to pay attention to is where we're at with moving averages in general. If we can get back above the 50-day moving average, and if we could see that 50-day cross back over the 200-day, we're in a scenario where, at least technically speaking, we're bullish. And so we need to see some type of trend develop to the upside. Now, the catalyst for that, I'm not sure yet. A cut in interest rates could definitely be a catalyst for that, because that's typically good for any type of currency as the dollar becomes weaker against other currencies in that scenario. The other thing is if the timeline gets moved up and we see a faster approval on a spot ETF, we would see potentially more money flowing into cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin in general. So I think that those are both two potential catalysts. But I think that in general, when you look at the broad markets, whether you're looking at cryptos or you're looking at stock market, looking at equities, everything just feels like there's a lot more downside than upside right now. Yeah. So you just got to be very careful and just make sure that you're very disciplined in how you're trading it. And if you have have a position that you're really, really interested in, dollar cost average into that thing over the next, 12 weeks, just a little bit at a time over 12 weeks. And yeah, forever and ever and ever, right?
Shouldn't you always be dollar cost averaging no matter what it is, even if you're buying oats or something? Like, it should just always be dollar. No, I'm serious. Like, dollar cost for the average investor. Like, you're not a day trader. You're not good at it. Let's not kid ourselves. So, I mean, I'm not saying you, Eddie. You're a fantastic trader.
Right.
But just the average person, you have a long-term view of something, you dollar cost average. The thing that you brought up, though, a couple of things with interest rate and the likes, I mean, those are still kind of far-fetched, not far-fetched, but the potential of a cut in interest rates anytime soon doesn't seem to be something that we're going to see. But one thing that we might see here, Solana, as we mentioned at the top of the show, and the altcoins potentially flooding the market over the next few weeks and what have you. First of all, what's your take on that? Second of all, if there is a drop in the price of altcoins, does that take down actually the majors, if you will? Bitcoin, ETH, do they go down or do they go up in kind of like a flight to safety? What's going to be what would happen in that situation?
I think they're still down. I just don't think they're down as much. Obviously, if we were to kind of make a comparison to the traditional stock market, it would be small cap stocks versus large cap stocks, right? So when you see that big sell-off in anything, and this is a potentially really big sell-off if you look at it from the fact that they could unload 700 million plus coins and there could be like no extra liquidity available of just Solana, right? And then you have the ripple effects of everything else of like, oh my gosh, people that aren't following. Well, yeah, okay.
And don't say Ripple. We don't want the tweets.
Don't say Ripple. We don't want to go there, right? But then
guys,
we
love
the effect, it carries over because not everybody is watching this show. Not everybody understands that there's a reason specifically for Solana going down. And because of that, they just might start dumping like everything. And so it could definitely turn into a unfortunate snowball effect. I think that that does create a buying opportunity, though. Anytime you have a significant sell-off, and the most recent example would be COVID, where we saw traditional markets go down by 35% in 20 days. That was a huge buying opportunity. So there's definitely, if you have some liquidity and we do see a 20, 30, 40% sell-off, I would say that that's an opportunity. Now, it's scary for most, but it's an opportunity for the people that are really have that investor mindset. So what happens in that scenario? There's not enough extra liquidity. We see it go down. We see Bitcoin and Ethereum kind of follow in suit, not by as much. Maybe we see some money get repositioned, and so it's a little bit more stable in the blue chips, if you will. But we kind of, when you look at just Bitcoin in general, that's in a very, very bearish condition right now. So that could get real bad, but I would look at that as a buying opportunity. I mean, don't run away when things are going bad. That's the time to take the risk. It's when everything is when we're up at 100,000. That's when we should be taking profits.
Eddy, thanks so much for joining us this morning. It's always a pleasure having you on and hearing your perspective on the markets.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
That was Tactive Wealth Advisor Eddy Gifford.